How's everybody today? This is Ron Tucker. Welcome to At Ron's Talking. Today is going to be, as my man used to say, one hell of a day. We're going to find out who our next president is going to be, folks, and it's been a long wait. We're finally here, and the time is near. No one knows what's going to happen, of course, and everybody's got their own ideas and thoughts. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of anxiety and dealing with a lot of stress, wondering which way our country's going to go. Are we going to lean towards democracy or anarchy? Are we going to be and stay a republic that was founded on the principles of freedom, liberty, and, as they say, the pursuit of happiness? Or are we going to follow the road to me, dictatorship, autocracy? If Donald Trump wins, I firmly believe he's not going to pull off. He's going to attempt to probably, but he's not going to be able to pull off all these things that he says he wants to do, and he does a lot of it for the fear effect. But I'm pretty sure it'd be as chaotic or even worse than his first time in office. With that being said, there's a lot of excitement and anticipation for Kamala Harris and the amazing job she's done in the few months since she became the Democratic nominee. It is still, to me, just utterly amazing and almost incomprehensible how Donald Trump could be in this position right now where he's still challenging for the presidency of the United States. It's totally, to me, unreal, bizarre. There's not enough adjectives to describe what I really think about his position. And it really just mystifies me why so many Americans still feel this guy should be in office. It's mind-boggling. But anyway, we're just about ready to do this. And like I said earlier, it's been a long time coming. The wait has been pretty much excruciating to me. At the same time, the anticipation of what could be if she wins be monumental. And to me, could be the best thing to happen to this country in decades and decades. But we shall see later on today. I believe this little town in New Hampshire, I forget the name of it, I think it's called Ditchville, something like that. They historically, it's almost like Groundhog's Day with Puxatawny Phil and their little group, every February. This little town in New Hampshire, ever since 1960, they have traditionally kicked off the election year, or at least the voting for the next president, at midnight. And they did that tonight, well, it's still nighttime on the East Coast at midnight. So the election results from that county, it's a dead heat. There were little votes that they counted, and it was 4 electoral votes up for grabs. Both Harris and Trump had about 50% of the vote. A dead heat. So what that portends and what that really means in the bigger picture, we'll know later on this evening and the next day, I'm sure, when all the votes are tallied. But it was an interesting thing. Again, I don't know if it's an indication of things to come. We'll find out. I'd rather see Kamala at least tied if not ahead, then behind. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I want to talk about some recent things that your favorite former president has been up to and has been doing. Um, at one of his rallies, and I forget which one it was, either yesterday or the day before. I believe it was in Georgia, but anyway, there he is begging people uh, to vote for him so he won't face any prison time. And this man actually uh, pleading and begging people to vote. And I think if my memory serves me right, it's the same thing he was pulling last time he was trying to get elected in 2020, and it didn't work. I hope that same formula works this time, and we get the same results. But that's where he's at. He's in desperation mode because he's really worried that he's going to lose. And I sure hope he's right. And he also started talking about how he wouldn't mind the press getting shot instead of him if someone decided to take a crack at him. And again, this is the kind of mentality that this man has. Just a lunatic. He has no regard for anybody's safety, anybody's life, but he's the first one to start squealing when somebody says something negative towards him. He's always starting shit. He don't ever want to deal with it when it comes back his way. But he's always trying to put the press down. He's been doing that from day one, years ago. Because, again, he knows that that's the clearest path for him to assert his dictatorship mindset and his dreams of being a bona fide, qualified dictator. Beat the press down, silence them, and he can go on about his business without any interference of anybody checking his ass. Okay? As usual, he's lying about his crowd sizes at his rallies again. Same old Trump, same old tired trope, same old tired rhetoric. You heard it a million times. Just push that button in his back, and then his ass just on autoplay. He just, the man's crazy, and you run out of things to call him and to describe how his mentality is, because he's just batshit crazy, you know. But he's crying about his crowd size being so big and so large. No one leaves his rallies when he's talking. But it was interesting. This camera guy, whoever he was, he panned that audience, and it showed tons and tons and rows of seats that were empty from the get-go. And as Trump was going on his diatribe about people not leaving his rallies, people hitting the aisles. So that just shows where he's at and the situation that his rallies are in now. But it's over now. Everybody's spoken their last little pieces, him and Harris. So now it's moving on to the actual election. It's going to be interesting, I tell you. And he also was crying and talking about, the fact that he wasn't too late showing up. He's been late all the time, leaving those people hanging for 2 hours, 3 hours. He didn't care less. He don't care about their time. All he's worried about is his. And he knows that what are they going to do? Most of them ain't going to go home quick. They'll leave eventually nowadays because they're tired of the same old shit that he talks about, which ain't about nothing. They've heard a million times. But he knows they'll wait on him. They'll wait because, that's part of the cult. So, and, he talks also about the fact that, well, hey, he wasn't really late, but I guess it's just a matter of interpretation of what you consider as late and, him showing up. Anytime he shows up, as far as he's concerned, he's right on time. So he was in Georgia, I believe. That might have been yesterday. And, this is another indication of how crippled this man's brain is. I who you really don't know what Trump is thinking, because I don't think he even knows. But shit just comes out of his brain and it flows through his mouth and or other parts of his body. So this is what we get. Uh, just a brain dump. He was in Georgia and he started talking about how he was going to build a missile defense shield around the country. Now, I don't know, since he's a self-professed stable genius, maybe only he knows how this is going to happen and how he's going to pull it off. But, remember, now he's good at talking about things he's going to do, just like back in 2015 when he was talking about, who was going to pay for the wall. So this defense missile shield idea, I wonder, I'm only speculating, but I wonder if it's something he wants to copy from Israel and their Iron Dome. And folks, right now, don't even think about asking him, me, or anybody else how he's going to do it, how much it's going to cost, when is he going to get it accomplished. He ain't got no specifics because this is some shit he done pulled out his ass. You believe that? He's in Georgia. Of course, he told them, it's going to bring a lot of jobs, and you people here in Georgia, y'all will be instrumental in helping build it. Of course he's going to say something like that to those folks. He's there in Georgia with them. So he's trying to get them votes. So he's going to toss them a bone and tell them that, hey, just like his infrastructure stuff that never materialized in his first term, they're going to benefit from it this time in Georgia. But I just need those votes tomorrow, and I'll get back with y'all on the back end later. You know what I'm saying? That was his pitch. And he said that, some of the work will be done there in Georgia. This is going to floor some people. Now, Trump mentioned this thing to these people in Georgia, as I said before, and this is a project that ain't gonna happen, but I got to go on through with this little story. Now, I want some of you folks to take a guess at who he's gonna put in charge of this program, this missile defense shield project. I'll wait. Who you think is going to be in charge? Who Trump has selected? Handpicked. I know y'all tired of waiting, so here we go. He tabbed none other than Herschel Walker. That Herschel Walker. Man, where do we go from here? Now, Herschel, who never fails to make us laugh and scratch our heads in bewilderment as to what is his role in anything involving government affairs. I don't know what kind of experience Herschel has in missile defense and all that, but he must be so multifaceted and multi-talented that he just knows more than, than, we'll ever know about him. Anyway, 1080 he's the man that Trump has tabbed to handle it. Now, Herschel got up on the podium to introduce Trump as the next president of the United States. And in true Herschel fashion, Herschel introduced Donald Trump Jr. And then as he walked off the stage after he made his first blunder, he said Trump's name again, but he called him Donald Trump, something, and took that big blockhead on off the stage. And I mean, when I saw it, I really couldn't control my laughter, so I'm trying to keep myself cool right now on this video because, I mean, Herschel and Trump. And y'all still think that Donald Trump, along with people like Herschel Walker, because, you know, Trump always says he always brings his finest to the dance. This is a preview of what to expect if he wins the presidency again. Folks, yeah, if you don't take my word for it, check it out yourself on YouTube or Google it or something. I shit you not. So anyway, Trump, he stays at it. He's always at it. Man, it's incredible. So my video that I dropped yesterday, you know, I went off, and you know, I'm gonna try to keep some of the profane language down to a bare minimum, but I'm always gonna reserve the right to clown if I feel like it, if I need to, because I got options. Now, we all know, well, at least most of us know, that Trump has no business at all being anywhere in the vicinity of Kamala Harris as far as the election is concerned. But you know, I believe it's going to be close, but it depends on what you mean by close. But we'll see, of course. The man in his first term was an abysmal failure. And I can illustrate it right now. When you look at the timeline of when he was in office the first time, he was stuck at around about 46% of approval rate. And when he left office, that had dropped to 34% of voters who approved him. And that was in 2021 when he left, or should I say got booted out. He was obviously the most unpopular president in history and still is. It's interesting, though, that right now they say he's close to 48% approval, probably because they think and feel, and these are American voters who feel that they were better off 4 years ago, like he's always been trying to get them to think. Now, me personally, I think that a lot of Americans don't want to remember the COVID crisis, and during that period where we felt like because our economy didn't bounce back fast enough to the pre-pandemic conditions, they, you know, wishfully think and feel that, you know, only about, I say about 2016, when Trump was handed that robust economy from President Barack Obama, to about 2019, right before COVID-19 obviously changed all of our lives, people felt life was good. And they also don't want to recall how Donald Trump responded to the crisis by downplaying it, even when he was briefed on it ahead of time back in November and December of 2019, and he was told how serious this thing was going to be. Now, why did he downplay it? To me, simply because he was ill-equipped to handle it. You know, these people feel like Kamala's not qualified. She doesn't have the education. She's not ready for handling and running the country because she's not a man. But in my estimation, where we are as a country is been under male domination and rule. So who's to blame for the condition of our situation other than men? If you don't believe me about his incompetence and what he was unable to do and why he downplayed everything, just ask Bob Woodward, the journalist and author that Trump confided in. And Trump admitted it on tape that he deliberately downplayed the pandemic because his excuse was he didn't want the public to panic. So he lied and covered up the truth and fucked around with it for months. And during that process, of course, hundreds of thousands of people died. And while he was screwing around with everything, he finally, him and his team, if you want to call it that, they came up with this Operation Warp Speed to get the vaccine approved. My question is, why couldn't he have done all that shit back in the early stages of the pandemic when he first found out about it through those presidential briefings? I don't know. Just stands to reason if he was competent and he was a true leader, I mean, he would have been doing things from the beginning to take care of things and handle his business. But, and they still support him right now for president. And see, Ronald Reagan, he coined the phrase, "Let's make America great again." And of course, old dumb Donald, he hijacked it and shortened the phrase to where it is today. So, if his wife wasn't stealing Michelle Obama's speech, Trump was busy stealing this phrase. So, there they are, the two of them, Donnie and Clyde Dania. The Trump warnings were, they really weren't spread by Democrats as much as they came from his own GOP party. And that was back in 2015. People, GOP people, these leaders, they were talking about how he was unfit. Starting with old lying, leaping Lindsey Graham, talking about him like he was a dog. And next up to the plate was Ted Cruz, calling him a bigot and all that stuff, and he's a liar, pathological. Marco Rubio, calling him the same things. Here comes Jeb Bush next. Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House. Chris Christie, Mitch Romney, even Trump's current VP nominee, J.D. Vance, said he never liked him. And also, he's the one that said Trump was very much like a Hitler. But they in bed together now. Go figure. Now, Trump's first term was a showcase of incompetence mixed with division and chaos. And see, first of all, Trump, from the beginning, showed his incredible stupidity and ignorance. But he actually asked Dr. Deborah Birx during the pandemic that he told her that he heard that a disinfectant being injected in our bodies could knock it out, the virus now, in 1 minute, and asked Dr. Birx, could we do that? A lot of people forgot about that. Okay, because we were dealing with the trauma of this thing we'd never seen before in our lifetimes. Okay, but that's what our commander-in-chief was espousing back then, as well as even before then. This was in April of 2019. He was telling us from the get-go. I mean, not April 2019, April 2020. He was telling us before that it was going to go away and it was just a passing thing. That's what our leadership was doing back then for us. Now, there's a little timeline on all the bullshit that he was involved in and the criminality while he was president. That a lot of people, like I said, they didn't forgot about all that trauma. Just like a bad nightmare. Okay. So let's start with National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. General Flynn got kicked out of Trump's administration after about, the first month or two? For lying to FBI agents about his connection with Russian operatives, in which he pled guilty, and Trump, in true corrupt fashion, tried to sweet talk FBI Director Comey into letting Flynn off the hook, which Comey refused. And we know what that led to. Next, Trump, against the only time that anyone in his orbit in the White House gave him some sound counsel, and it happened to be, of all people, Steve Bannon. He implored Trump, don't fire the FBI director. But Trump, who was panicking because he knew that the FBI was on his ass about the Russian thing, and he did it anyway. He did it because he couldn't bribe Comey, so he went on and fucked up and fired him anyway, and that's when the special counsel was appointed. Okay? Actually, Trump started off everything with the first big lie, which was Mexico funding his border wall. Ain't no need to elaborate on that one. Next was his infrastructure failures. That shit never happened under his watch. It was always infrastructure week, and it went on for weeks and weeks and years. Got nothing done. Next was his healthcare reforms. Nada, zilch. Couldn't come up with a repeal or replace of Obamacare. Oh, how he hates that Hussein Obama guy. Can't stand him. Next, got his travel bans overturned by the courts. And he was busy separating children from their parents because they were immigrants. So he just felt the hell with them and their feelings. He didn't feel like they were human beings. He didn't give a damn about their feelings because he ain't got none. And next now this is just a small synopsis of all the crookery that he was involved in when he was president. Well, he provided bankers on Wall Street with those tax breaks for the wealthy. And I'm going to ask some of these people who've been running their mouths lately, talking about how much better off they were 4 years ago when Trump was in office. How much did you guys benefit from a tax break, all you middle class and poor folks? What you get out of it? Did you get the same tax breaks that the wealthy people got? Hell no. So were you really better off back then? Or you just believe you were? That COVID, that pandemic fucked everybody's brains up for a while. And some of them are still shell shocked. They still think that Trump was FDR. Now, his administration was so fucked up. He had the worst staff turnover in American presidential history. Ain't nobody close. He abused his powers by enriching him and his family with all the goodies and trappings that the presidential structure can benefit you with. I wonder what Ivanka's doing with those 9 patents that she received from China. Hey, when Trump was in office, it was nepotism at its finest. And they were violating the Hatch Act constantly. They also tried to influence the Ukrainian president to dig up dirt on his political foe, which was Joe Biden, which earned him his first impeachment. Next, he engineered the Supreme Court justice to strike down Roe v. Wade by, selecting 3 who lied themselves into the Supreme Court when they were getting nominated. We all know what they did afterwards. They pulled off the caper. Trump's always had a penchant to cozy up to white supremacists, like the white boy. Yeah, well, they are, most of them are white, I guess. The Proud Boys, neo-Nazis in Charlottesville, fine people on both sides. That's his little phrase. Of course, he was running his criminal organization in the White House. Man, it was so damn terrible that 20 aides were indicted, a dozen were convicted, and with more awaiting trial right now. And he too is a convicted felon, but they still support him right now as president. And Kamala, she's unfit. She's unfit because she was a McDonald's worker and DA, prosecutor, attorney general, senator, and now vice president. See, all that disqualifies somebody who has a certain amount of competence. Half America wants this incompetent fool. Because they're going to miss his rallies if he doesn't win. They want to be entertained. That's all they after. They want to dance around and clown around with the former Apprentice host. He is a celebrity to them, so they want to continue to see the sideshow and the circus. Because, he's the ringmaster, master ceremonies of the clown show. And he wants to stock the White House again with all of his clowns and load them up on the damn clown wagon and get it going. And we ain't gonna even mention much about the insurrection that he incited. Was sent hundreds of people to prison and counting. But again, like I said, that's who they want back in office to run the country to the ground. You fuck around tomorrow and they might get their wish. Be a sad day for America. Very sad day. Probably one of the worst days in our history. And we've gone through and dealt with and seen a lot. But a lot of Americans believe that this human cockroach is worthy of being reinstated again so he can finish what he started in his first term. The pandemic and all the other shit he was doing to cause him 2 impeachments and becoming a convicted felon and a sexual abuser. Everything on Donald Trump's resume just ain't good enough to sway half the population for some strange, crazy, maniacal, crazy ass reasons that only most of those MAGA morons can figure out or tell you about. They got to have them some Trump. Because he's an embarrassment. I've said it many times. I feel like he's an embarrassment. His supporters are embarrassed for him. So they're going to try to clean it up for him to try to make him look good at the expense of our democracy. Just so they can prove a point and march their dumbasses to those rallies and buy all that bullshit merchandise that he sells because he's a grifter. And they just want to make sure that, see, we won, we owned you libs, we got our man back in office where he belongs, ha ha ha, see. Those fools don't realize what they do. They don't have a clue. They don't mind hurting the country as long as they get what they want. And that's to seat his fat ass right back in office so him and Putin can finish the job that they started. I'm hoping and praying that that ain't going to happen. And I honestly feel pretty confident that Kamala's going to prevail. I think this is destiny. I think the miraculous job that she has done in a short span of time is nothing short of amazing. So we'll see what happens today. Everybody keep your chin up. No matter what happens, stay inspired, because no matter how it goes, you know, if Trump, obviously, if he wins, it's going to be a sad pall over our whole country, and probably over the world. If y'all remember back in 2016 when he won, the whole world was protesting about our president, not theirs, ours. That's how much of an impact Trump and his election had on the whole world. So if by chance it happens again and he gets reelected, folks, I just implore you, don't give up hope. He can only last for so long, and we will go through a whole bunch of shit big time with him being at the helm again, but we'll survive. We'll get through it. That's the worst case scenario, but I'm keeping it on the optimistic side and the bright side. I believe Kamala's going to win, so we'll leave it at that, and we'll just keep on moving no matter what happens. So everybody out there, take it easy, take it slow, don't get too rattled. I think we'll prevail, and as always, take care of yourselves. God bless, and I will be talking at you guys soon. Ron is out.